In that moment, he came rushing at me, and I rushed right back, with a flurry of punches and kicks going both ways. I wish I could say that the fight were more balanced, but the longer it went on, the more it seemed like everything was leaning in his favor. One after another, he just kept landing hits, and most of mine seemed to get nowhere, being palmed away or evaded altogether, or blocked. Even the few hits I did manage to get didn't feel like they got much purchase. He had this technique of seeming to be able to roll into it. The moment the punch or kick was about to hit, it seemed like he had the wherewithal to take the impact, but allow his body to move with it, which seemed to deaden it, taking all of the force right out of it. Meanwhile, all the punches he was swinging on me seemed to keep hitting home. But he's older than me, I thought to myself. In that flurry of combat, I just have to keep pressing. My physical condition is better than his. I'm younger. I have more energy. I can leverage it. Zhao Kundo specializes in pressure tactics. Eventually, one of us is going to have to stop for air. Their defense is going to get lax. Their attacks aren't going to pack the muster that they had. Because of my youth, I have the advantage in that category. Or at least I thought I did. But it seemed like the longer things went on, the more it became obvious that he wasn't the one who was tiring out. I mean, really, it didn't make any sense. He must be in his 40s by now. I exercise constantly, and I've got my youth on top of it. I should be tiring him out, I thought to myself, as the blows just kept swaying in his direction, favoring him more with each passing moment. I decided to go for a big one. In a rapid movement, I lifted my feet off of the ground together, giving him a solid kick to the midsection. That one hit home, actually managing to knock him off his feet this time. I hit the ground as well, but the strike landed, and it gave me some space. So, jolting back to my feet as quickly as I could, I did my best to take a stance while I tried to breathe. And yet, regardless, he didn't really seem tired at all. He hopped back up to his feet like it was nothing. He didn't even seem out of breath. But at this point, I was panting, unable to stabilize my breathing. "Good move, kid. You've got sharp instincts," he said as he started to take his stance again. Slowly, this time actually giving me some space. He started to notice that I was picking up the advantage. You were smart enough to think that you could outstand me in a test of endurance because of my age. That's a smart move. With most other people, you probably would have been right. But, despite my age, I am in exceptionally good physical condition and excellent health. Enough to outlast even a kid half my age. But not only were you smart enough to try to take advantage of it, that perception of age difference and the capability that you find in it, but you were also smart enough to notice when it wasn't going that way, when you were the one getting worn down, and so you took action. You forced a gap, bought yourself time to breathe. Yeah, those are definitely good instincts, Mr. Hollowfield said as he glared me down, beginning to circle. Your skills are sharp too. After a short time, a lot of young people start to flail. They attack without intuition, without tactic or skill. They get wild and throw haymakers, leaving themselves far too vulnerable. But despite how tired you're getting, you didn't fall into that. So not only do you have instincts, but you also have talent in fighting. Those are good things, but you're still far too stringent. You're sticking way too tight to the rules, kid. I told you, in a real conflict, there are no rules, no dirty moves. The only one who's going to be telling a story of victory is the one who actually wins. Whether they play dirty or not won't really matter. So, why don't you get a little dirty, kid? No thanks, I replied, still trying to catch my breath. At this point, you must realize that I'm the one with the advantage, and I'm giving you clear rein to do it. So, why the holdback? What, is it a moral thing? You just don't abide playing dirty? He said, still slowly circling. No, that's not it, I replied. I already know you have the advantage. I knew that before the fight started. Your skill far surpasses mine. I never expected to win this. Winning isn't the objective here for me. It might be with somebody else, but not me. Winning is just a perk. Something you get when you try hard, train hard, and fight hard. But it's not the goal. My objective is to get better. Sure, underhanded tactics might net me a little bit more sway in my direction. But the more I lean into them, the more I take away from my skill, my ability to actually enforce my will. There are some things more important than winning. For instance, the way you win. Sure, you might be able to pull off a victory if you play a little dirty. But what was that victory worth if you had to play dirty to gain it? If you're not strong enough to beat your opponent in a straight-out fight, by terms that you're comfortable with, to do it with sheer skill, because yours is superior to theirs, then the truth is that you lost. You admitted that the skills that you worked to attain, the strength that you have, and everything that you strive for, it all amounts to nothing. You were too weak to win by your own standards. Instead of trying to fight your way through it dirty, you should have tried to improve. Not all improvement comes over time. Some improvement can only be found in the moment, in the actual fight itself, with everything on the line. That moment where you find your wall, that barricade stopping you, impeding you, keeping you from reaching the next level. Sure, you can get dirty and get a sledgehammer, or you can learn how to climb that freaking wall. Strife, struggle, and pain regardless, and make it to the other side stronger than you were before. Not in weeks or months, but in moments. The moments that count. I try to be stronger than I was in every moment. Even now, as we're having this little sparring session, I'm stronger than I was when I started. Maybe I'm more tired or exhausted, but I'm also stronger. I've learned, grown as a fighter. If I can't levy that to win, then I'll just keep pressing, I said as I widened my stance a bit more. My fists were tightly clenched, and I loosened them ever so gently as I finally took my breathing under control, taking a few long, deep breaths, but never taking my eyes off of him. Suddenly, he seemed to stop in place, taking a stronger stance and glaring me down. He was giving me a strange look. I'm used to dealing with fighters, seeing a look of focus, but there seemed to be something different about the way he was looking at me, as if he could see something that didn't seem obvious. But at the time, I didn't worry about it. I had no time to. I had to focus. I continued my breathing, ever so gently shifting my stance, stretching and moving everything. My fingers, my toes, beginning to loosen up the muscle groups around my body. I needed to move fast, to hit hard, and to make sure those hits struck home. It probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but for whatever reason I felt compelled to do it. For just a moment, I closed my eyes and took the deepest breath I possibly could. I could feel it, the air in the room, the heat from my own body, the air moving in and out of my lungs. Every muscle, every fiber, I could feel it. Focus. Strength is a state of mind. Your body is simply the tool, the weapon. Your mind is the master that wields that weapon. I thought to myself as I slowly opened my eyes, lowering my stance. This was actually a technique that isn't allowed in regular Jiao Kun Do tournaments. It's considered too dangerous. The Jiao Kun Do Dragon's Flurry, a technique in which someone lowers their stance, becoming near serpentine, into a stance where one's forward movement is at its absolute maximum, and the strike force yield is at its peak. Dangerous to both the person doing it and whoever gets hit by it. More so to the person who gets hit by it. But this was not a simple technique. Use it wrong, and the force it puts on my muscles could do some serious damage. But this guy wasn't a lightweight. Even if I hit him with everything, he's not an amateur I have to be afraid of hurting. My body growing lower and lower to the ground, one hand extended forward, lining with my foot, also extended heavily, the other leg falling back, a sideways placement with a loosely curled fist. In that moment, I used everything, pressed forward as fast as I could. In only a few moments, I closed the distance between me and him. He threw up a defensive block, but that's fine with me. This technique is designed so that blocking doesn't matter. It's absolute force. There's no mask in the attack, no deception in the movements. A technique designed to strike with the absolute pinnacle of every ounce of force you can possibly muster from the human body. Even if he blocks, this is gonna hurt.